Hello, my beloved friends. It's Tara-Nicholle Kirk. I'm the metaphysician, a master self-actualization coach, and a spiritual strategist to smart, successful people who want to start becoming their big selves and doing their big dreams before they die. Keywords: before they die. I do all of this at soultour.com, where I'm the founder and CEO, and we're here today for Transformation Tuesday. So I wanted to share with you a conversation that I had with a friend last week, and I'm just calling this Break Your Identity, How to Break Your Identity Part 2, all right? So this friend of mine and I, he's an entrepreneur. I'm obviously an entrepreneur, and I coach the coaches and coach the entrepreneurs. We were talking the other day about his wonderful experience of running a business right now, but also his way too long work weeks. He called them 80-hour work weeks. And he made the comment that working too hard, overwork, is a hard habit to break. And I just felt like something rise up in my spirit. And I told him, this is not the season for breaking habits, all right? Because in this season, if you are hearing me, that includes you. In this season, you are being called to leap from the paradigms and the ways of being of your small self into being your big self and into doing your big dreams. And that is not a leap that you can make by breaking habits alone. You gotta go bigger. You have to break your identity. You have to break your identity. And he was like, what does that mean? So by that, I mean interrupting your patterns, doing the fearless thing, all the things that I mentioned a few weeks ago. I wrote a piece on, there was another Transformation Tuesday on breaking your identity. And let's just call it part 1 now. I didn't know it was gonna be 2 parts at the time. So there's a bunch of stuff that I shared there. You'll wanna find it on my blog at Tara-Nicholle.com, or however you get content from me, you will want to find that. But I want to go deeper than I went there today, all right? Because when you're really ready to break your identity at the level you'll need to break it to become your big self, you need new mental models. Like, one, you need to reconceptualize endings. Ending things is not bad. Our culture says that it's bad, or that there's something, wrong or inherently to be mourned when we end things. That is not true. So if you have that mindset, you may want to take a look at Henry Cloud's book, Necessary Endings. It'll change your world. You'll also have to get comfortable with the idea that breaking things or even burning things is not bad. There is a level in nature, in divinity, in all of creation, there is a level of destruction that must always take place in order for creation to happen, in order for there to be space for new things to be born. All right, so you'll have to get past the place where you think there's something necessarily wrong with breaking things or shedding things that no longer serve you. All right. Here's another mental model I want to offer you for this shift. I want you to conceptualize what you're doing this way. As you break your identity, what you are doing is rebranding yourself to yourself. All right. So think about all the rebrands you've experienced in your world or the world around you. Think about when a company changes its name or changes its logo. You're going to be doing the same thing as you shift your identity. You are going to be rebranding yourself first and foremost to yourself. So this is not for external consumption yet. So I want you to get into divine knowing and truth mode. If you think I'm getting a little out there, you're right, I am, and I'm just getting started. Because what I want you to do is light Kali's sacred fire and get okay with the truth that you will need to destroy some shit in order to create some other new, delicious, wonderful shit. Okay? I also want you to get like Ganesha, though, and integrate. This is not like tear down and break everything about who you've ever been and just discard it and start from scratch. No, I want you to get like Ganesha and integrate all of who you've been, all of what you've learned, everything you've been through, all of the old traumas. I want you to not just release resistance, I want you to integrate all of those things into your new sort of spiritually bionic, easeful, thriving identity that you begin living the moment after the sacred destruction takes place. So if you don't know the story of Ganesha, Ganesha's father, Shiva, chopped off his head before he knew that he was his father. And the head flew through outer space. And when Shiva realized that Ganesha was his child with the goddess Parvati, Shiva put an elephant head on the boy so that he might have a head and come back to life. And Ganesha took the ashes of his burned old head that had flown through all time and space and slurped those ashes back up and brought them into who he is. Okay, so I want you to get like Ganesha. We're going to burn some shit. We're going to destroy some shit. We're going to heal from some stuff, but we're not just going to pretend like it never happened. All right, we're going to integrate all the clarity, all the power, all the wisdom, all the resilience, all the strength of those things, your own life traumas, your ancestral line traumas, into this new spiritually bionic you, the big self you. All right. So keep in mind that as you break your identity and start shifting into your big self, you are not starting from scratch. It feels very untethering to even let go of some of your old traumas, let go of some of the old pain. It can feel very like, well, who will I be without that? Well, know that you're not starting from scratch, okay? So yeah, I want you to know that you'll also need to embrace your inner Net. Net was an Egyptian deity. She was thought of as the primordial creator. And every night, they said, Net would put an end to the whole earth so that we might sleep. And then in the morning, she would get out her big cosmic loom and weave the whole world back to life in the morning. Okay, so you need to embrace some of that, letting things go and waking up fresh, new, rebooted the next day, weaving a new thing the next day, not bringing yesterday into today. All right? But more importantly than all of that, than the sacred destruction that precedes all sacred creation, I need you and want you to rebrand yourself to yourself. Okay, so I want you to get up while it's still an hour or so before dawn is gonna dawn. I want you to sit in the darkness and sit in the stillness. And I want you to brain dump out all of your old grudges and grievances and anxiety, all your grudges and grievances about the past, all of your anxieties about the future. I want you to get all that stuff out on the pages of your journal, deactivate some of the emotional charge of those memories or thoughts of the future, stories you're telling yourself about the future. I want you to let that process reset you in your powerful now. I want you to let the energetic ambrosia of creative power that swirls through the pre-dawn sky, just looking for open hearts to land in. I want you to let that energy flow to you. I want you to let it thaw out any cold and hard spots in your inner pipeline and let it flow through you. I want you to let that energy inspire. Breathe that energy in, let it inspire afresh. Let it breathe life into a fresh new vision for who you are and how you be. A new vision for you, for big self you. And I want you to write maybe one phrase or maybe a dozen pages describing the vision of the big self you would love to become. Not the self, not the goal. Don't write down goals that somebody told you should set, or goals that you think would make you feel successful or make you feel more financially secure if you hit those goals. I want you to write one phrase or one dozen pages that describe the big, beautiful, delicious vision for the big self you want to be. I did this process a while ago and it was like, I want to be the thriving co-creator of a family of thriving children. All right. It didn't even have to be about work. It didn't have to be about money. It doesn't have to be about, business. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. All right. And then after you write that one phrase or one dozen pages about your big self, about the big self that you just would love to become, I want you to fall in love with your own big self. I want you to fall back in love with your own big self. All right. And I don't want you to worry about how your big self and your big dreams will come to life. I want you to practice letting the divine handle the how, which is another way of saying let the emotional charge of your own love for your own big self and your own big dreams carry you through the next steps of creation. All right. So just stand down for a minute. In Soul Tour land, which is where we be right now, we don't do things the way culture does things. You don't have to work harder than anyone else to prove to prove that you deserve your place on the planet. You don't have to work harder than you've ever worked before in order to prevent unwanted things from happening while you're here. You don't have to spin every universal plate to make your big dreams happen either. Here, this is a co-creative process. You and everything that is, this entire universe, every atom in it, are all co-creating your big self and your big dream with you. So it's not all up to you. You don't have to work so hard here. So what do you do next? Say you buy my proposition that you don't have to work so hard here. What do you do next? You just stay willing to break some shit. Stay willing to burn some shit. Stay willing to integrate some of the ashes of the shit you burned. Stay in love with your vision. Know that, love is heart. Heart is courage. You will need that heart and that courage to dive into the free-floating, fear, scary feeling energy that will arise as you take steps closer to your big self and your big dream, right? You'll need that courage to stay mindful that what feels like fear wants to transmute into exhilaration at your own expansion, into exhilaration at what you're becoming. So you'll need that heart, you'll need that love, you'll need to stay in love with your own vision and your own dream in order to feel the fear and stay in a place of feeling it and facing it and wholeheartedly engaging with the subjects of it and staying self-compassionate enough to know that anytime the fear sparks, it means you're doing it right. 100% of the time, if you feel fear at the prospect of your own identity shift or the prospect of your own dreams, it means you are doing it right. All right. What else can you do? You can begin to do some self-coaching, some alignment coaching. Okay, at the beginning of each day, you can wake up and focus, just tune back into your big self vision and ask yourself these questions. Ask yourself, what's not in alignment? Look at your calendar and ask, is this in alignment? Is this in alignment with my big self? Is this in alignment with the vision I fell in love with? In any conversation, consider the words that you're gonna speak before you speak them. And take a minute, as momentary, like a second of a sacred pause, and ask yourself, are the words I'm about to speak in alignment with my big self? Before you send an email, is this email in alignment with my big self? Just ask yourself, you'll know the answer. Or take, if you have a little more time, take an hour on a Sunday and just reflect on where there are misalignments that you can resolve between your big self and your big dreams and your values, your identity, your beliefs, your decisions, your actions, your plans, your calendar, your habits, your expenditures and investments of time and energy and life force and money, your relationships, your systems, your environments. Just tune in. What's in alignment? What's not in alignment? That's the power of knowing, of falling in love with your big self and your big dream, is then you can align to it much, much, much more rapidly. All right. And as you go about this process, you'll need to stay aware that there are costs and consequences to becoming your big self and doing your big dreams. Yeah, there are many wonderful things that will take place when you start doing this, but also know this. Some folk won't like the big self you. There are people in your life right now who may not love you when you're being they may still love you, but they may not like you when you're being your big self. You may make very different choices about how you spend your time. You may not be able to hang out with the homies in the same way, or you may not be able to hang out with the same homies. All right. There are some comfortable payoffs you've been getting out of being the small version of you that will not be able to survive in the light of the radiant glow that is thrown off by the big you. All right? And you might end up finding yourself having to have some hard conversations with people or yourself as you move into your big self. All right, so just know that that stuff is real and will happen, and prepare yourself for it. And also know this, that definitionally a soul tour is a transformational journey to help you become your big self and do your big dreams before you die. And know that I will never in this life ask you to do something that I have not done myself. All right, so I have been doing this exact process of inner work and alignment work for the better part of 25 years now. And I now benefit, my children and grandchildren now, or grandchild / child, we now benefit, and we benefit from and dwell in the wholeness and the joy and the radical liberation that is just on the other side of all of the costs and consequences. Just on the other side of the pain is this beautiful world of the wondrous that is just waiting to swing into view for you. So trust me when I say that you will love it here. You will love it here. You will find it to be well worth the costs and the consequences. And know that behind the scenes, I am playing hard to radically reinvent my own identity, to radically reinvent Soul Tour's identity too. I just cannot wait until the day when we can begin to reopen programs and reopen this magically auspicious, metaphysically delicious portal again, so that we can welcome individual you to have your own soul tour. All right? So it's a journey. I'll be your guide. And in the immortal words of the Reverend Dr. Erykah Badu, pack light. Pack light. All right, keep your head up and your heart out. I'll see you on the next Transformation Tuesday.